Hey guys, this is the quick tutorial for relighting with a position pass and a normal pass using the PixelCloud plugin. To get started, I've already rendered my passes out of my 3D program Maya, and I've imported my passes into After Effects, including a background layer, which I will use for compositing later. To get started, I need to make sure that I'm interpreting my footage correctly, so I'll right-click my position pass in the project panel, go Interpret Footage, Main, and under the Color Management tab, enable Preserve RGB. And then I'll do the same thing for my normal pass, Interpret Footage, Main, Preserve RGB. And make sure that I'm working in a 32 bits per channel project. So I'll alt-click here until it says 32 bits per channel. And I'll go ahead and drag that background layer into a new composition and rename that composition Main. And I'll also drag my passes into that new composition, and for all the layers I'm going to go ahead and switch off the visibility for now. And I'll right click and create a new solid, which I will name Pixel Cloud, and make sure that its comp size and the color is black. And I'll go ahead and apply the Pixel Cloud effect by going to Effect, Blurry Pixel, Pixel Cloud. Okay, and then after doing that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new camera here and rename that shot cam. Make sure that it's a 2-node camera, and then apply the 35mm preset for now. Go OK, and then hit P to bring down the position values. And then I've also recorded some XYZ coordinates from my 3D program. And for X, I've got 58.562. For Y, I recorded 46.732, but because the Y and Z axes are flipped in After Effects, it is actually negative 46.732. For Z, I've got 5.6 or negative 5.652, but in After Effects, that's positive 5.652. Then I'm going to hit A for the point of interest. And I've also recorded that from my 3D program. For X, I've got negative 1.95. For Y, I've got 5.74, but in After Effects, that's negative 5.74. For Z, I've got 1.349, but in After Effects, that is negative 1.349. Alright, and then I'll double-click my shot cam to bring up the camera settings and make sure that the focal length is, as recorded, 22 millimeters from my 3D program. And after I've got that set, I'll duplicate the camera by hitting Control-D on the keyboard or Command-D on a Mac and rename that layer RefCam. Drag that to the bottom of the stack. Go back to my Pixel Cloud layer, and in the Pixel Cloud effect panel, set my source, position, and pass layers. For source layer, I'll choose my source. For position pass, I'll choose position. For the normal pass, I'll choose normal. And I can start seeing the Pixel Cloud in the composition window, but it's actually still flipped around because of that Y and Z axes issue from my 3D program. To correct that, I'll twirl down the position pass adjustment and then enable invert Y and invert Z. And I'll also need to do the same thing for the normal pass. So under the normal pass adjustment, enable invert Y and invert Z as well. And now you can see a correct representation of the Pixel Cloud in the composition window. Okay, so now that looks correct, I also need to make sure that we have a reference camera set. So under the link reference camera button here, I'm going to go ahead and click that button. The dialog will pop up. I'll need to choose RefCam and go OK. So now when I move the camera around, or the shot cam around, it should be represented correctly in 3D space. Okay, so now that we have a Pixel Cloud set up, we can go ahead and get started relighting our Pixel Cloud. So I'll go to our timeline here and create a new light and make sure it's a point light. I'll change the intensity to about 100. Make sure that fall off set to none and cast shadows is disabled. Since the light is in a strange position here, I need to get it placed in the correct area. A good way of getting a coordinate for placing your light is to go into the Pixel Cloud effect panel, change the render mode to 32 bits per channel 2D position, and then hover the mouse cursor over the pixel cloud there, and then read off from the info panel in the upper right what the RGB values are, record those down, and use those RGB values as the XYZ coordinate for your light. In this case, at around the exact center of 320 by 240, I should get RGB values of 20.968 and negative 21.2 for green and 1.36 for blue. I'll record those down and switch the render mode back to none, and then for light enter those values as the XYZ coordinates. So as I said before, for X should be 20.968. For Y, I should get a 21.2, and for Z, get a 1.36. The light should show up in your composition window, and we can go ahead and move that around to relight our pixel cloud. What I want to do is go ahead and enter these following values to get that set correctly. I want it placed up and towards the camera, so I'll put in 44 for X, and for Y I'll put in negative 44, and for Z just 0. And I'll add any secondary lights, so in this case I'll duplicate that light and change it back to an ambient light. I'll make the intensity of the ambient light to be about 40%, and then I'll change the intensity of the that previous light to about 60%. Move it around. I might change the colors of the ambient light to sort of a dull red color. Maybe change the intensity to 20 and make the point light back to 100. While I'm doing that, I can go ahead and turn the background layer back on, and then try to sort of match the color so that it fits in our background correctly. It's looking okay right now. I'm not trying to be perfect for it. I just need to make this demonstration work for you. To get rid of some of the aliasing there, I'm going to go ahead and change the render mode to 2D Relight, and that should match up perfectly with our source image. So once I've got that done, I'll go ahead and try to put in a drop shadow in the back there. So I'll just do that with a blank solid here, and mask it out so that I can fake sort of a cast shadow look behind, and feather out that mask. So once I've got my mask in there, I'll feather it out to about 24, and bring the opacity down to say around 50, no, 85%. Alright, and then I also will put a light wrap around my pixel cloud so that it sets in correctly. I'll go ahead and apply a matte choker, and change the geometric softness 1 to 0, and I'll change the choke 1 to about 50, and the geometric softness 2 to about 5. Alright, and then I'll go change the geometric softness 1 to around 2, and then add another effect here, the set matte effect. Change the matte, take matte from layer, and I'll change that to my source layer. And then let's see, that's looking a little bit better. I think that's pretty good right there. Tweak the lighting a little bit more, make it a little greener. Okay. And then if I need to, I can adjust the specularity by going into the Pixel Cloud effect panel here and change the specular intensity to drop it down to around 0.55 and make the shininess to say around 35. 35. So once I've got that set up, we are good to go, and we should be in 2D Relight mode. We're able to go ahead and render this out. Okay, so that's about the workflow. As you can see, there's our image composited in my source. I can change the lighting, animate it, do whatever I need to do to make sure that this fits into our scene correctly. And so here's the difference. This is our Pixel Cloud version, and this is the version without Pixel Cloud. And this is our Pixel Cloud.